So that's pretty much how I feel about this election. And I'm sure you are too. If you are near any electronic devices for the past 4 years, you've been hearing about nothing but elections because that's all they make money off of it. So anyway, that's how Donald Trump got in the first place. So we're going to talk about today. It's going to be about weed wars, and that's Prop 64. If you are familiar with Prop 64, we're going to have to take it down. Okay, so welcome to Liberal Buzz. My name is Denise Dory. I'm the host of the show. My guest is going to be Shona Gokenauer, the educational director of Axis of Love SF, a compassionate cannabis use patient group who advocate giving away cannabis, and we will be outlaws if Prop 64 passes because Prop 64 outlaws giving away cannabis. So that's pretty bad, isn't it? And we've got a lot. What compounds the problem is a lot of the so-called progressive clubs, and even the Democrats. Well, they weren't so progressive back in June when they voted to endorse it, or early July. But then you've got the League of Pissed Off Voters. Please don't read their pamphlets. Jane Kim has also withdrawn her endorsement of Prop 64 because we had a meeting with her. Shona and I had a meeting with Jane Kim about it. We're going to talk. I'm going to call Shona in a minute. She's at Safeway shopping. So I'm going to brief you on some of this stuff. And I've been handing out flyers at where people go to vote. No Prop 64 flyers showing how toxic this law really would be, because it contains a 3 strikes law. Yes, a 3 strikes law. You could have life sentence for cannabis, for being busted for cannabis. So that's pretty bad, isn't it? Now, let's get through the tweets. I've been tweeting, and I hope you can retweet me, because the movement against Prop 64 is growing. People can see that Prop 64 is nothing more than a takeover of our herb by Big Pharma and Monsanto. So now, this is what I'm saying. They're trying to shove these big pharma's trying to shove them down our throats by they're well, I've got this tweet. No more big pharma takeover of our herbal cures to get customers, I mean patients, back on RX poisons, and stop the prohibition of herbal cancer cures. Vote no on Prop 64. Actually, there's other cures, herbal cures, that are also outlawed, not just cannabis. So that's an issue. And here we go. Here's something to think about. Before you vote yes on Prop 64. Jail for life under Prop 64 ALMA, Adult Use of Marijuana Act. If you are subject to the 3 strikes rule, 18 years or older, getting caught cultivating 7 plants or more than twice, 18 years or over, convicted more than twice of possession with intent to sell any amount, even 1 gram. Only the billionaires can sell it. Okay, that's how it's set up. So, 21 years or older, knowingly hiring, employing, or using a person 20 years of age or younger in unlawfully cultivating, transporting, carrying, selling, offering to sell, giving away, preparing for sale, or peddling any marijuana even once. Literally, if a 20-year-old adult helps you cultivate, transport, sell, or even give away for free to a patient in need, you are subject to the 3 strikes rule. So it looks like I might be going to jail too. Shona and I, we give away pot, and anyway, see what happens. So that's what we're saying. Weed wars. We're at war here. Make no mistake. This is war. So we got 4 days left. We're handing out flyers where people go to vote, and you can print out some of the things from my Twitter feed to hand out to voters. Just take a picture of it with your phone, print it out. I found a way to print them out from Twitter. So you just go to FedEx. You can get quite a few. Well, I'm not promoting anybody, but there's a few places to get copies near. And so there's Shona. She's saying, anyway, I'm going to get through this. If she decides to call, maybe I'll ring her up in a bit. I haven't gotten through this. So, yeah, so we've got life in prison for a plant. Not on our watch, because Adult Use of Marijuana Act allows a life sentence for cultivation of more than 6 plants. If the person caught cultivating is subject to the 3 strikes felony rule. Did you know that? That's what they're saying, Prop 64. They don't say that. They don't tell you that. Even a lot of the lawyers are fooled. There's some Harvard graduates that haven't read it and endorsed this, and they don't know about this, and they call themselves liberal. There's a lot of people calling themselves progressives that are endorsing this, so you got to beware. You got to beware. You got to wait. You got 4 days to help wake folks up. Your herb's going to be taken away by Monsanto, Bayer, and Monsanto. They're interested in that GMO hemp, because the federal law will only allow genetically modified hemp to be grown, and that's $1 trillion. It's not $1 billion market. They say billion. It's $1 trillion, quadrillion dollar market. So numbers go, yeah. And we've got. See, it's a ballot investment. It wasn't a voter initiative at all. It's a ballot investment to capture California's $1 trillion industry while we go to jail for 7 plants. See, we have it better with Prop 215. You can grow as many as have as much as your doctor says you need, and you can grow up to 99 plants, or even more if Shona was saying something like 235 for collective gardens. And there won't be any more of those if this passes. No more free pot. None of that. So, anyway, it's now we've got Prop 64 states that none of the tax revenue from recreational cannabis will go into the general fund. So it'll all go to the marijuana tax fund. It's a slush fund designed solely to financing the massive bureaucracy that is Prop 64. It will create, and it creates a system ripe for corruption and cronyism, since Gavin Newsom is expected to head this recreational weed bureau, and his appointees would have the power to decide who receives those millions. But it's in stark contrast to what's happening in other states that have cannabis laws. So it would be worse than most of the other states with cannabis laws. And also, you would be looking at only 17% THC allowed. 17%. That's all the THC they're going to let you have, unless it's medical. And good luck getting a medical card, people. You hear what I'm saying? Good luck getting a medical card if this passes, because they didn't even talk about the qualifying conditions for medical cannabis, and the qualifying conditions weren't even mentioned anywhere in the law, because they're going to dream them up, and because they're going to dream all sorts of stuff up. But they pass, and it's already illegal to grow, and even indoors or outdoors anywhere in the state. Yeah, 75% of California. So where I'd like to grow, I'm not going to say where, but they already can't grow. There's a ban in that city. So that doesn't. So any people in that city voting for Prop 64, what are you voting for? Prop 64 won't let you grow. So what is it? They might not even let you smoke either. They could ban that too. They could ban anything. Don't buy into the bull. I'm serious. So, who's backing it? Oh boy, who's backing this? It's a fine kettle of fish. See, we've got progressives, so-called progressives. When people hear the word George Soros, he does a lot for immigrants. He does a lot of good things for immigrants. So he's a mixed bag, and see, this election, it's separating the progressives that don't really look deep into the issues, at hand. And some, this is $1 trillion. We were talking about trillions. This could empower everybody. If this law is done right, it could empower everybody. We could have community gardens growing it. My dream is to grow it. Let's grow it like lettuce. Like lettuce grow in peace. Okay, let's regulate it like we do lettuce. And so, see, the real progressives look deep, because the sheeple, the progressives that they got Hitler in power in Germany back in the 30s. Hitler got in power because of progressives, not because of the conservatives or the right wing. It was the progressives that helped him get in power. He fooled them. He led them along. Bah, bah. So progressives got us Hitler, and you know. So I want to thank Frank. Right, I want to stop right here and thank Frank Molinaro and Freedom is a Constant Struggle host. Her name escapes me at the moment. I apologize for coming out against Prop 64. The list of people waking up to the fact that who you were endorsing it are waking up and saying, "Oh no, this isn't really legalization at all. It has nothing to do with legalization." So you might be hearing on the news that Prop 64 is ahead, but they said that Mitt Romney was ahead too. So anyway, I think they just do it to sell soap and dope. So. Anyway, so we've got also Bernie Sanders. He's neutral. You're not going to hear him talk much against Prop 64. He's working on Prop 61. I appreciate Prop 61 is something to support too, please, as well as no on the grocery tax. No. Anyway, I'm mostly focused on this Prop 64 though, because it is $1 trillion industry, and and here's some more. Under Prop 64, even sharing would be like young people. If you're sharing a joint, that could be punishable by 6 months in jail and a $500 fine for engaging in one of the most common and harmless pastimes in California that we indulge in, and that's sharing a joint together with other folks. It's just, cannabis gets people to engage in critical thinking, and they don't want us in groups with engaging in critical thinking. That might be why maybe they don't want us to get together and think about things besides sports, romance, religion, things that are passive. I call it pacifying subjects. They keep us pacified. And and the cannabis issues, we're all pacified thinking, oh, this is legalization. Well, folks, it isn't. Trust Mama here. It's not legalization. It's a return to prohibition. Now, here's another red flag. If you know that a doctor who, Dr. Lyman, says that cannabis is bad for you, right? And Gavin Newsom hates cannabis. And Sean Parker is just an opportunist with a lot of money. And they all say, oh, cannabis is awful. Let's legalize it. What could possibly go wrong? So here's my guest. Shona, the Educational Director of Axis of Love, is our guest today, and she wants to update us on Prop 64 and the resistance against it.
So we're looking at really closing the gap. At first we were really behind on No on 64, and then slowly but surely we've been really climbing up in the polls. We have a lot of undecided folks still out there, so I really need to have everyone help me this weekend when me and Denise are going to be doing smokeouts in front of City Hall. And one of the reasons we're going to be doing that is because obviously this legislation outlaws public smoking, which for people that have homes and people that live in the suburbs, that's just fine. But for people who live in public housing where it's already under federal jurisdiction, and for our, 21,000 homeless vets in the Bay Area, we're looking at reticketing the poorest of poor. And this is just a continuation of the drug war when you're putting the poorest of the poor in the crossfire. And this is what Drug Policy Alliance has been doing for the last decade. They have been making legislation that protects their large commercial grows and completely ignoring the plight of poor people who are actually on the forefront and actually the targets of the drug war. So we're seeing a lot of people really who haven't read the legislation as well. I mean, including very, well-versed politicians who just, are doing this knee-jerk yes because they think it's about legalization, and that's the biggest joke,
Oh, for sure. You mean the progressives who really haven't looked into the issue, but they're coming around to it. It's just a difficult subject to explain to people how they're right. It's not legalization. 'Cause
Exactly.
we
And
live
that's
we
what
live
the
in a
EPA knows.
Shona,
They
we,
know
we
that.
live in a soundbite universe. People like 140 character thought. They think in 140 characters.
That's true. That's true, and it really can't be explained in 140 characters.
No.
You really have to look. You really have to go in depth with this legislation and really look at the harm that it's going to cause, and really reset the drug war. Which we have sort of a Sally Struthers like campaign coming from the very, 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 very wealthiest people in the world, really. I mean, when we're talking about this Billionaires Boys Club, we're not talking about middle class. We're not talking about upper middle class. We are talking about people who own countries, who are billionaires, etc. This is their legislation to make sure that they have their little monopoly in California, which is the 6th largest economy. So it's like, this is not a little game at all. And being able to get out to the people and make sure that people understand that when they're voting for 64, they're not voting for legalization. They're voting for a Billionaires Boys Club to basically own the California cannabis industry.
Absolutely. I had a caller, but I lost them.
Uh-oh.
Oh, well, call back. Try calling back, sir.
I was carrying on.
It's fair enough. Yeah, I'm sorry. I pressed the wrong button. I meant to answer, but I hung up on him instead. Oh, dear. So, now what happened with Jane Kim? Let's talk about Jane Kim. And she's not going no, and she's not going yes. She's neutral, as is Bernie, right?
So when we talk to Jane Kim, what she is doing is she's taking it off her recommendations. Hello? And she's reviewing all of the information. I don't think you're going to see Jane or Bernie come out in favor of this legislation once they review it. But the point is that, we have had elects like Senator McGuire, who is the senator of all of up north California, come through and go no, because he knows the damage that it will ensue upon all the small farmers up north. We're looking at a situation similar to when we had to do farm aid for the Midwestern small family farms that got grabbed up in the corporate land grab.
So a lot of the land is being brought up in California, isn't it?
What's happening is they're doing what they're calling, and it's hard to say this with a straight face, they're calling it market consolidation. But what that means is that they're going in and they're telling the small farmer, hey, look, you're not going to be able to afford permitting. You're not going to be able to afford to stay in the market. Your best bet is letting me buy your property, your farm. I'll give you a little bit of this and a little bit of that for the years to come. And we've seen this happen before with oil and other commodities where they buy up a bunch of land. They do a bunch of false promises to the families that own the land, much similar to the original land buyouts that were done with the Native American treaties. And these are just as deceptive, right? So these folks are going to end up losing everything that they have to these huge corporate entities.
Yeah.
And these are generational farms up north. This isn't, just a kid or two. These are people that have been there for generation after generation farming their land, And they're not the billionaire set. They're just farmers. And so those folks, they deserve to be able to have their family farms and not have huge corporate cannabis come and take their farm. There's a lot of corporate bullying going on.
Well, the real strength of America, excuse me, but the real strength in America has always been our farming community and the diversity of the farming community, not these big corporate mega grows. It's more about the family farm is really the strength of America.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't disagree.
Hang on, somebody keeps calling. Okay, what? Can you make it 10 seconds?
Yes.
10
Am
seconds.
I on the air?
10 seconds. No.
Okay.
Hi, did you have a question?
Yeah, you got
No,
1
no,
minute.
no. I just want. Okay, let me talk. Bayer Corporation, the biggest pharmaceutical in Germany, bought Mobsanto. So, if they get their way, all the cannabis profits will be going to Germany. I think we should keep that profits here in California. The Germans don't need any economic aid packages from California.
Thank you. That was a good comment. Thanks.
Yeah, no, that was a great comment. And recently, I believe Bayer and Monsanto and a whole bunch of other large corporations are consolidating on that level as well too. I mean, it's sort of a they live sci-fi scenario this cycle. You know, we're looking at, oh my gosh, what's going to happen with the presidency, but also on the agricultural level, we're really looking at sort of a huge nightmare. You know, with just, you know, not having real food, having our plants grabbed, having generations upon generations deadened by, you know, the Monsanto seeds that don't grow. You know, the cannabis crops have already been infiltrated by them.
And they don't even, you can't even smoke this stuff from Monsanto anyway. Let's talk briefly about The Hague. Now, Monsanto is going before The Hague. Their products are banned in a growing number of countries. A couple dozen countries have banned Monsanto, including New Zealand, Ireland.
Italy is burning their crops, yeah.
Yeah, Hungary, I think, got rid of their crops too. So things aren't looking good for them. Shona, we have 30 seconds. Do you have one last thought?
Yes, vote no on Prop 64 and come and join me and you and a whole bunch of cannabis activists Saturday at 4:20 in front of City Hall to find out about the last rollout of our push against all of this.
Oh, yeah, and until then, I'm going to be handing out No Prop 64 flyers. We have a team in front of City Hall. And be sure to adopt a shelter pet because they're waiting for you. They need you. And please tune into our next show. Thank you. Vote no on 64. Hey, Shona. Shona, you still there?